Hey, everybody. We're going to get started here shortly. Um, Thank you for joining us on the call. Actually, very, very cool call today. Um, that just kind of spawned from one of Dylan, who is going to be my co host slash panelist today. One of his social media posts, and just through asking around and just kind of surveying our community, we just kind of realized that there was a need and interest in the idea of how to become a professional dog trainer. So there's a lot of people who are very interested in dogs, and um, they're looking to kind of make that leap to take the next step to become professional dog trainers. So we're going to kind of cover today how to do that, how Dylan did it, how I myself did it, and hopefully give you guys some pointers. That being said, if you have specific questions, if you guys look in the lower part of your Zoom, there is a question or a little tab that says Q&A. You're welcome to put some questions in there, and we'll try to answer as many of those as possible during the call today. Um, but yeah, let's go ahead and get started here. And if anybody's on the call, because I did receive some emails about this. If anybody's on the call and can't stay for the entire time, we are recording, so this will be available as a replay. So don't get too worried or anything like that if you can't stay for the entire call. So we will be available for that. The recording will be available for that. So let me go ahead and jump into things real quick before we get started on the actual topic at hand. So for anybody who is super new to the community and just kind of saw an ad or saw the invite for today's Zoom call and doesn't know much about TWC, let me go ahead and just tell you a little bit about training without conflicts. So we've got a lot to cover today. First things first, what is TWC? Training Without Conflict is a community of dog trainers that utilize the concepts created by two-time IGP world champion Ivan Balabanov. The TWC methodology is rooted in the science of animal learning and evolutionary psychology to create unbelievable training results. TWC trainers operate with the belief that dogs are our fellow creatures and not opportunistic animals transacting for rewards. This is very different from some of the other languaging that some of the other schools use, where they talk a lot more about the transaction between reward and behaviors versus the actual connection that you're able to make with dogs. With TWC, dogs are our best friends. This is commonly stated, but rarely practiced. You see a lot of trainers on social media. You see a lot of trainers on YouTube talking about how they're relationship-based trainers or whatever type of word they use to sort of relate that they're actually good friends with the dog. But then you actually see them train and they're still just doing the exact same thing as many other trainers out there, where they're just transacting for rewards and asking for behavior, giving the dog a reward, asking for behavior, giving a dog a reward. That is very much not what we do with TWC. With TWC, the relationship comes first. This is the foundation of being a TWC trainer. Training Without Conflict prioritizes play as the most powerful motivator in training. As Ivan has said in many of the videos, he says, when all basic needs are met, all animals will choose play. So before I go any further, let me just address the elephant in the room. Who am I? I'm Eric Aguirre, the Director of Marketing for Training Without Conflict. Cool story, right? Why should you listen to me today? In my past lives, I've been starting, growing, and running successful businesses. In the past, I've been anything ranging from a telemarketer to working in a print shop to being a DJ in New York City. Eventually, I did decide to become a professional dog trainer and was able to scale my business, the Pride of the Pack dog training in New York City, to a six-figure business within 18 months. After this, I came on board with Training Without Conflict, and since that time, TWC has grown to be a highly successful brand, widely known and recognized throughout the world. I say all of this not to brag, but only to provide context as to how and where the information you'll learn today was developed. With that said, let's talk about why we're here today. Many of you in attendance are either professional dog trainers already looking for a little bit more information on how to make your business successful, or you're aspiring to start your dog training business. Earlier this year, we started to notice that many trainers were struggling to find clients. Aspiring dog trainers had no idea where to begin. At the same time, we saw marketing services popping up offering dog training services, shortcuts, masterminds, miracles that could turn them into a millionaire dog trainer overnight. This is a problem for us. We're going to explain why kind of throughout this call. But real quick, let's talk about the dog training industry. Dog training is a highly competitive industry. Americans spend over $50 billion a year on their pets. 33% of the world's population has a dog as a pet. 44% of American households own a dog as a pet. 1.6 million dogs are adopted each year in the US. Through all these stats, you can kind of see that there are a lot of dogs. There are a lot of people who own them. This has led to an industry that has proven over time to be recession proof. That being said, in every recession, there are winners and there are losers. It's our goal today that everyone on this call ends up on the winning side of history. Now let's talk about the problem that I mentioned earlier. In the last 6 months, services offering everything from guaranteed clients to handing you the keys to your very own Lamborghini have been popping up, aimed directly at struggling dog trainers or aspiring dog trainers. These businesses and services are simply sharks that smell blood in the water. These businesses seek to prey on struggling and unsuspecting dog trainers looking for a mythical shortcut that will open the floodgate to never-ending stream of clients. So I kind of mention all that stuff so you guys know, if you are aspiring to become dog trainers, what the industry looks like that you're coming into and the pitfalls that'll kind of arise almost immediately as you're looking to become dog trainers. Now, that being said, we don't want to bring the mood down and tell you guys, how difficult it's going to be or anything like that. I'm actually here and Dylan's here to give you guys some tips, some pointers on how dog training became our profession, and hopefully you guys are able to kind of take some tips, some of the strategies that we use to become successful, to make yourself successful as a professional dog trainer. So let me go ahead and introduce Dylan. Dylan is a TWC certified trainer. He has also completed our TWC expert trainer program, which is, as you guys will see over the next probably year or so, going to be something growing. You're going to see a lot of the expert trainers that completed the course a lot more visible in our community, and they're going to be kind of presenting to you guys a lot more information over the next year or so. So we're very excited to have Dylan on the call. Dylan, go ahead and introduce yourself and just maybe talk about a little bit on how your journey into dog training started, how you became a dog trainer, stuff like that.
Yeah, happy to be here. So I've been training dogs for about 7 years or so, 6 or 7 years. I graduated training without conflict, the base course, about a year and a half ago or so. I got my start just sort of randomly. I was working dead end jobs. I sent an application to a company looking for dog trainers, and they took me on with no experience, and that's just kind of how I got into it. It's one of the usual suspects, like 2-3 week boot camp, board and train. So it was like not a great education for me in terms of learning the craft itself, but that is how I got in and started getting my hands on dogs. I spent about 3 years doing my thing there, and then I started my own business, and I've been doing my own thing ever since.
Very, very cool. And then just to kind of give you guys, I will continue to ask Dylan questions, but also just to give you kind of my path into becoming a dog trainer. I got a dog, and this is probably a very similar path to a lot of people. I got a dog. I had no idea what I was doing. I very quickly realized that. And I actually decided to go to a local dog trainer just to teach my dog how to walk on leash. I had no idea what to do. I was walking, a pit bull in New York City on a harness, and as you can imagine, it was not going well, despite the fact that I did clip the leash to the front of the no pull harness, which was very surprising that it did not work. So I had no idea what I was doing. Signed up for this class. It was like a 5 week class. Ended up actually finding a lot of success with not only the training but with my own personal dog. I kind of caught the bug, went down the the YouTube rabbit hole of trying to learn as much as I could about dog training. Um, you know, just enjoyed the relationship that kind of got built and felt like we really had a communication language with my dog. Ended up just randomly when a friend went away to Europe, he asked me to take care of his dog, and he says, if you want to train him while I'm gone, like I'll pay you a little bit extra. I said, cool, no problem. Ended up having success with his dog. His friend contacted me, trained his dog, and then two more dogs like that. I realized that this is probably something that could end up being lucrative for my future. So I decided to start a professional dog training business. I had no idea what to do at the time as far as creating a business or anything like that. So again, I just kind of tried to learn from as many people, as many things as possible. The good thing about my path is I did learn good strategies to take, and I also learned many bad strategies to take. So I think one of the things that you guys will kind of start to understand as you kind of go, not only in your path, but as you kind of listen to me and Dylan today, there are definitely things that will come across your desk or come across your computer as you grow as a dog trainer that are going to seem like great ideas, but actually may lead you down a wrong path. And it's not a bad thing, but it's always kind of one of those interesting things that you kind of have to deal with. So, Dylan, can you kind of talk about a little bit about where your learning process kind of started prior to TWC, as far as learning how to train dogs?
Well, it was probably similar to what you just said in a way where, again, I started with this company and it's very much like this crash course. You get 2.5 weeks, just formulaic flowchart, cookie cutter dog training methods, the basic electric collar type deal. And then I was just kind of set off into the wilderness to take clients. And within a couple months, even not really knowing what was going on, I could tell that not every dog is just going to respond the intended way to the same methods over and over and over again. So then I just went on YouTube basically, and I was just every single day trying to find every methodology and tactic that I could try to incorporate. And it was really just a science experiment for like 2 years where I'm just getting clients. I'm seeing something on YouTube, researching as much as I can, and then trying to apply it in real time, which again came with some positives, but also some negatives.
Yeah, and same story with me. I mean, it's just I feel like something that happens, especially when you don't have the answers or you don't know the answers and you're just really out in the wilderness looking for them. So I did the exact same thing. I worked for a high volume dog trainer, and although it wasn't like the greatest experience by any means, and I had a lot of issues with the way that the training was going on in house there. Um, there was a very invaluable thing that happened there is I was able to get hands on a lot of dogs in a very short amount of time. Within I would say 12 to 18 months, I probably saw, hundreds of dogs because it was just 40 dogs a day, New York City, high volume, walking dogs, taking dogs out. And although you're not training all of them, you're watching mannerisms, you're watching how they react, and you start to kind of learn how those dogs are going to, come to learn from you or take direction from you. So there was an invaluable learning experience there, even though it wasn't the best, training itself. And that's also, I feel like, a common theme with the way that the learning process of dog training goes. Sometimes the learning process isn't just what to do, it's as just almost just as valuable what not to do. So can you kind of talk about what your path to becoming a dog trainer and those things that you kind of learned what not to do, and then we'll kind of talk about what to do.
Yeah, My situation was similar where it was just high volume, hands on. I basically went 2 straight years, no days off. Because I knew immediately it's just like any craft or skill. You know that there is just X amount of repetitions that you have to have before you've developed any real talent at it. So I was like, I'm just going to try to fast track this and work as hard as humanly possible so that I'm not terrible for the next like 10 years. So it was every single day going hands on with dogs. And I do think that ultimately everyone has to do that in some capacity. I just think there are more elegant and beneficial ways to go about it than just randomly scouring the internet, getting caught at dead ends with a dog that you have a deadline on, not really having places to go to for good answers. And that, like, if you do this the right way, it should be just like forward progress. If you go about it sort of how I ended up doing it, there were many points where I was like, this is a dead end. I should quit. So it can kind of you're walking a razor's edge where you have to get the reps, but you also have to have some answer so that you don't just feel burned out and defeated.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Because, and especially in that life of high volume dog training, because you're seeing so much, and it's essentially like a factory of training. You have to churn out these clients, and I'll kind of go in a little bit as to one of the things that I didn't like about the place that I worked. The owner actually mentioned to me one time, because my goal whenever I was training a dog was, to achieve essentially perfection before they went home. Like I wanted that to be the best dog possible when they went home from a board and train or something like that. And he just kind of told me like, our goal is not to send home perfect dogs. They just need to be better than when they came in. And I had such a big problem with that because it's such a perspective of someone who's just interested in churning out clients, and there's not a ton of interest in the well-being of the dog. And that, sucked at the time because you're this, new person that's just trying to learn this thing and you're passionate and whatever. And you're essentially kind of told like, hey, just do better than they're currently at. And then we'll just churn them home. And then the next one comes in and whatever. And, clearly at the time I knew I had a feeling that that wasn't the right way. And then over time, as I learned more as a trainer, I realized it's very much not the right way. So can you talk a little bit about just how that kind of affected you? Like you kind of said that there was, some remnants of or some inklings of burnout that were starting to arise just from that type of training.
Well, dude, you don't have to be a career dog trainer to know when dogs don't look good. Like we kind of just have an innate like that is not a happy animal. Clearly, he goes home and like 2 weeks later, it's you're not supposed to hear that the client's already having like serious problems. And it's obvious with a lot of these kind of like quick boot camp churn through the dog programs with some dogs maybe that don't have serious problems, or you're just looking for the bare bone basics and people are maybe the client is talented, sometimes it'll stick. But for many of these people and these dogs, it was a colossal waste of time and waste of their money. And it just knowing that like you're working with a dog and knowing there's a high percentage chance that you're not going to have the time to be able to do what you actually want to do, you're kind of going in defeated already. Like what is the point of what I'm doing? So waking up every morning, working with the dogs, knowing I can't give you my best because I'm operating within these constraints, it's a total motivational killer.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's a motivational killer, not just for the trainer, but clearly the dogs, because you see the dogs flat and moving slow and just going through the motions. And especially where I worked at, there was no real concern as to what the dog found motivating. It was like, you will
Yep.
work for food, and if you don't work for food, we're just not going to feed you until you'll work for food. And that's like super common. And I know it sounds like, when it's said this way, it sounds very like archaic and not nice. But that's like super common in the dog training industry. And I mean, obviously, now knowing what we know, being TWC trainers, we know that that's very much not the way, and one of the worst ways to approach dog training. So, um, can you kind of talk about where the turn started to happen to you, where you realized that there was a different way that sort of pointed you in the direction of TWC?
Oh yeah, it's simple. The more I researched on the internet, the more I would occasionally see a trainer that had a dog that was doing what he wanted the dog to do, but he didn't look suicidal. It's actually the opposite. The dog looked like alive and light and exuberant. And I'm like, okay, so this false trade-off that I've been taught, which is that to have more control over the dog, you have to diminish the dog. It's actually just not true at all. So once I started to think about what am I missing? There is more to this. It actually made me like double down on wanting to get better, because I know this isn't just squishing dogs and just making them zombies. Like, there is another way to go about it.
Yeah, yeah, totally. I mean, it was very interesting for me to see how play could affect a dog. Even prior uh to coming and the interesting thing with my specific path is I had a very interesting one, because a lot of the TWC trainers now, they come in, they take the course, and then they become TWC trainers, and they kind of, see the light and realize how powerful play can be. The interesting thing with me is that when I came in, the course did not exist yet, and I was seeing it, but I had no understanding as to why it worked. So I almost learned everything backwards, because I started working here and was like, okay, we're doing these things and I'm doing what Ivan says. And even though I don't understand why we're doing it, it works. So I'll just continue to trust and follow. And it only became like, it was very eye-opening once I actually attended, and we filmed and did the whole certification program, because I got like, so many people tell you that the why is the first thing that should come, and then you start to do the how. But for me, we did the how first, and then I learned the why later. So it was like a very, very interesting way to learn it. But I kind of say that to say that it was just very interesting for me, because I had a very similar feeling, where there was just like this innate feeling that, like, hey, there's got to be a better way than this. It's just,
Yeah.
this can't be it. It's just not right to see dogs super flat, not excited, even when when their owner comes and their owner's asking him to do stuff, they're still just like, oh, I got to do this thing again. Like, it's sort of the same concept as, like, you watch someone, going to a job that they hate for the, 10 years into full hatred mode. It's just like they're walking in and it's just like, man, not another day of this stuff. And watching dogs do that, and then seeing just a different style of training, and you start to see these dogs just like really come alive and do things excited, and dogs that were, considered to be, low energy and low motivation, all of a sudden become these like little balls of fire, which is super, super cool to see. So can you kind of talk about, once you joined TWC, and how your kind of your learning and your training started to kind of come together as you kind of learned the concepts in the TWC program?
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly what I needed, because I can, like, you're talking about seeing flat dogs. I actually can identify the exact moment with the exact dog when I was like, I'm fed up with this. They're like, I have to radically change what I'm doing. I was in my backyard with this little, like, very expressive King Charles Cavalier, and I'm just doing like the electric collar, food, sending him to place, and he turned and looked at me with this, dude, why are we doing this? Like, why are you doing this to me? And I was like, I can't. Like, this just is gross. Like, this is disgusting. And the thing that, and again, it's not like overtly heavy handed, it's just very suppressive, standard, conventional dog training that just turns dogs into low motivation robots. And the contrast with training without conflict as a community and a methodology compared to what I was taught before, everyone around me before would have just said, hey, that's just, he's a low motivation dog. He's a lazy dog. Have you tried dialing up the e-collar remote? Have you tried a higher value reward? And then all of a sudden I'm around training without conflict people, and they're talking about things like the social intelligence of the animal. Like, does the animal feel like you want to be there with him? The motivation of the dog, like, how does he like to do things? Like, it's not just this train the dog in front of you. Oh, he likes beef treats, he likes chicken treats. It's like, no, like, go outside with him and watch how he interacts with the world. Like, what does he like, chasing butterflies? Go make yourself a part of that. And as soon as I got into TWC and I started to hear that type of perspective, I was just hooked. It's like, this is exactly what I've been looking for the entire time.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, very, very similar. It's just it it's such a, like, refreshing is almost too light of a word to say when you are so in this mode of like, there's got to be something better out there. I don't know what it is, but I just know that this isn't the peak of what we're supposed to be doing. And then all of a sudden, you just see it in front of you. And even if you don't know what you're looking at, you're just like, holy crap. Like, this
Yeah.
is what I've been looking for. And that's, I mean, just it's a very, very cool moment, I think, that happens for a lot of TWC trainers. Now, talking about kind of what I started to talk about earlier in the call, some of the pitfalls and um the the temptations that kind of arise as you start to realize that you want to become a dog trainer. Can you talk a little bit about some of the temptations or some of the other programs or trainers that are out there on, YouTube or marketing on social media, and how that can adversely affect you if you, like, how that can adversely affect you knowing what you know now and what you learned in the TWC program?
Well, you actually referenced a bit of it at the beginning, and I talked to Ivan about this, was it yesterday or the day before? There's almost this entire new weird, creepy industry of marketing people trying to do these online courses with new dog trainers to teach them what is effectively smoke and mirrors video editing and algorithmic manipulation. And people are buying into that before they learn how to train the dogs. So people are trying to start a foundation for their dog training career by getting clicks, but the dogs look terrible, right? Like, ultimately, the dogs do not lie. So if you are not getting the result and the dog's attitude is diminished and the dog looks terrible, that is going to catch up with you, and it's not going to take long.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, totally. It's like really like an epidemic, because most of these people, like, there are more people currently, I feel like, claiming to be dog trainers that have multi-million dollar businesses than actual dog trainers who have multi-million dollar businesses. And their only skill is marketing to people in this either um uneducated state or fear state. Those are the two things. It's essentially, they're looking for prey. It's a very primal thing. It's marketing, but it's primal in the sense that they're seeking out people that are either, I don't know the answer, and I'll pretend to have it. And even if I don't have it, I still got their, $7 a month or $49.99 for my thing. And or they're looking for those trainers who are like, man, I thought this dog training thing was going to be, super lucrative, and it's just not. And uh I need help. And all of a sudden, this person pops up and they're just like, hey, I can make you a millionaire in the next 6 months if you just buy my book and you pay for my monthly subscription and you pay for my service that does AI marketing. And then you just follow my Instagram scripts. And it's a product of the current day, in the sense that people are leveraging social media in order to become successful, but they're not realizing that in order to actually be successful, you can use social media to get people in the door, but once people are in the door, you have to deliver on that promise. So can you talk about how TWC helps you deliver on the promise that you're giving clients when they walk in the door?
Yeah, you have to do the thing. Like there's no replacement for literal, like you were hired to do a job. You have to do the thing. And as soon as you look under the hood with a lot of these trainers that, again, like they've got 200,000 followers, their videos look great. They just leave trails of messes of dogs, and they end up going nowhere. So to me, it is very obvious, especially post training without conflict. It is very obvious what the average dog owner, the pet owner, is looking for. It's the job being done, meaning that you're eliminating, let's just talk about like the average pet household, eliminating some bad behavior in the house. They want them to walk nice when they need them to. They want them to recall off leash. But the X factor, the thing that is just sitting in front of everybody, that seemingly, to my knowledge, nobody outside of TWC talks about, it's the attitude of the dog. Like, even if dog owners don't say it explicitly, they want to see their dog exuberant and enabled to be a dog and alive and free. So there's a bit of remorse that I think people get when they sign up for a program, and maybe, okay, the dog can sort of heal a little bit as long as I'm tapping the e-collar remote, but mom knows that their dog's head is down and the tail is tucked, and he's not happy to see her anymore, and he looks like he wants to go home. And that does show up on video. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Like if you just go on Instagram or TikTok and you just scroll through a lot of viral dog training videos, the dogs actually look terrible, even if they're doing the thing that they're supposed to be doing. So the real superpower, if you're looking to get attention and get clients and get a social media following, in my opinion, is not to be good at time altering footage and, knowing where to put music and stuff. It's like having dogs, pet dogs in the real world doing what they need to do, but looking happy to be there. Like that is the easy formula. And it's just sitting in front of everybody.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's I feel like, and that's such a good thing that TWC has brought, I think, to the world of dog training in a very short period of time, in the last 5 years, I would say, because I think 5 years ago, prior to when a lot of the TWC stuff was not super visible in social media and in the general dog training industry, there was this belief that, like, if your dog just stayed out of the way and essentially was a doormat and didn't bother you, then like life was good. Your dog had good behavior and he was well behaved. And TWC has really brought out this new just thought that, like, yes, your dog can have good behavior. He can have just be, the dog that everyone wants to have in the house, but at the same time he can also like come alive and still be a dog and be himself or herself whenever the time comes, and I think that's where play becomes so important because you allow the dog to have that moment of the day or the two moments of the day, whether it's 10 minutes or whatever amount of time you use, that you play with the dog, that they're actually able to become who they're meant to be. Like that. It's sort of like those the it's almost like professional baseball players. It's very easy to look at professional baseball players and think, okay, they're making so much money, and they just play games every day and blah 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 blah. But when you sit down and watch these guys at the end of the season and it's game 7 of the World Series and a guy hits a home run, there's no thought in his, like, he's not thinking as he's rounding the bases, oh man, I'm going to have $660,000 in my bank account by the end of the week. That's not like that couldn't be further from where it's at. All he's thinking is like that just primal play, like, holy crap, I just did something that helped my team. I did something to win the game. And you see that like childlike excitement come out. And it's the same thing you see, I think, with the dogs as we're playing in the games with as TWC trainers. Like, you see this dog come out and it's just like who they are to the core. They're just showing you, this is who I am, this is who I like to play, this is how excited I like to be, and thank you so much for providing this for me. And I think that's like the coolest thing that has come in the last very short amount of time. And I like, Ivan has been doing this stuff for developing it for over 40 years, but it only became public in a like super recently. Like 5 years in the grand scope of dog training is not a long time. And so it's very cool to see kind of where that's gone. Now, can you talk a little bit about um your evolution as a dog trainer and your success, and how you've just been able to essentially skip levels by learning this stuff now versus having those, because there are people who know it exists but they're just like, oh, someday, or uh I'll take the leap next year, or I can't quit my job, or those types of things. Like, can you talk a little bit about you taking the plunge of saying like, okay, I'm going to do this. This is when I'm going to do it, and how TWC kind of helped you become successful in that.
Yeah, I mean, I could talk about training without conflict, how it's impacted my training, no joke, probably straight all day long, but I'll hit the major points. And my entry point was the chase and catch video. So I saw that, and there's a specific section in there where Ivan, more or less, he gets a dog in that's clearly been through a very suppressive training program. And it was a male, I think, a female Malinois, and she's just walking around defeated, just like, I don't want to do anything. I'd rather go back in the kennel. Isn't sniffing, isn't running around, like, just looks horrible. And with a soccer ball, Ivan effectively resurrects this dog. So when I saw that, I was like, okay, there is something here. Like, that there is something going on. And it's like you mentioned earlier, it's like you're seeing it and it's real, but the depth of it, truly, how far you can take it, doesn't become apparent until you get involved and start learning it and practicing it. So I don't think that it's an exaggeration to say, when you're comparing yourself to other dog trainers, knowing how to play with dogs is effectively a cheat code or a superpower. Like, it's just, and training without conflict codifies this and teaches this, and it's very obvious once you see it and you've done it. It's just like I have clients, like, just pet dog owners that didn't know anything about training dogs before they came to me, nothing. And by the time we're done with our go home lessons for a board and train or something, I'm watching them play with their dogs and I'm telling them, no, I'm being completely honest here. I would trust you to train the average dog on the street, before I would a random trainer. Just because I see that you know how to train, you know how to play with your dog. Literally. Like it is that powerful. And there's much more too, but that's like the first obvious thing that jumps into my head for sure.
Yeah, and I think the interesting thing with when you teach an owner how to play with their dog, they see how excited their dog is. But I think the underlying thing there is they are able to see that they can interact with their dog in this way, like because it's not a one-way street. Like it's not just like you play with the dog and the dog gets to be, super excited and childlike and whatever. If you've watched any of Ivan's videos, there is so much importance placed on you also being part of the picture. Like you also have to be excited and motivated and playing the part. And maybe and especially with the clip that you're talking about in Chase and Catch, hopefully most of you guys have seen it, that are in the audience. um Ivan talks about how, in order to bring this dog out, he had to put on a Hollywood production on how excited he was about the game. And yes, there may be times early on where you have to do that. But once you get that dog to come out, it's no longer that. Then it just becomes two people having a good time playing games. And I think that it also allows the owner or the handler to tap into that childlike excitement again in their life. Like for that moment in time, they're able to become kids again and just play with their dog. And it's not about treats. It's not about how much your food costs. It's not about, how many beds you've ripped up. It's just like this is the moment. And Ivan has kind of discussed that in previous calls where he talks about the flow and how you get into the flow with the dog. And I think when you give owners the, like you said, cheat code to establishing that flow with their dog, you not only create a client for life, but you can best believe that they're going to tell everyone that they can possibly imagine how amazing their relationship is with their dog. And then on top of it, they're going to have a super obedient and excited dog, which is like, it's almost difficult to not get clients once you know how to do this stuff, because people are so excited about what you provided for them. It's not just you gave them, a dog that knows how to sit down and go to place. The
Yeah.
dog actually knows how to be a contributing member of society and have a great time doing it, which is super cool. Can you kind of just talk about how some of your client experiences have gone, now that you've completed the TWC program?
Oh, this is especially obvious too, especially like with the dogs that I take on now, which is mostly behavioral cases, aggression, reactivity. They've been to previous trainers the vast majority of the time. Like the vast majority of the time, by the time someone comes to see me, they've been to two, three, sometimes more trainers. And the contrast, stark, obvious contrast between a training without conflict approach versus much of what you'd consider to be conventional balanced training or even force-free training. So much conventional training revolves around a rejection of who the dog is. It's like we're waiting for the dog to show these little flickers of the dog, and then we smash it, or we redirect it, or we try to ignore it. Training without conflict is the total opposite. No, we're trying to bring that out and put it in places where it's constructive and it's fun. And this isn't work. This is literally just like I'm giving you permission to enjoy your dog. And you can see the relief, even with clients that have been seriously struggling with their dogs. They don't want to hear more ways that we can put handcuffs on their dogs. They don't want to hear that. That's all they've been fed, whether it's with prong collars and electric collars or with food and kibble bags. They want to know that he can be a German Shepherd, and it doesn't mean self-destruction. And that to me is what training without conflict is.
Yeah, and one of the and this is just kind of a side story, and maybe I have the clip, and I'm like, there's so much video that we have that like doesn't necessarily fit in any place of any specific course or any specific training lesson or anything like that. But it's just like it's almost like the home movies. I have this clip of a workshop. It was the healing workshop that we did a few years ago, and this dog was supposed to be training on the field, training the heel, but on the way onto the field, he found a Gatorade bottle. And then he grabbed the Gatorade bottle, and then it turned into like a game of catch me if you can. And then all of a sudden, there's, not just the owner, but like everyone in attendance is like trying to catch this dog and get the Gatorade bottle. And the dog's just like having the time of his life. And I've been to other workshops, and there's this rigidity of like, your dog only comes out of the crate to train. And if they're not going to train, they're going right back in the crate. If their head is not in the game, if your engagement's not there, going right back in the crate. And I've now, thankfully, to because I work here, have had the pleasure and the benefit of going to so many workshops with Ivan, that so many things happen like this where like the dog is just being a dog, and instead of saying, put your dog back in the crate, this is unacceptable, he's like laughing with everybody else and enjoying the show, and the same way, like instead of saying, oh, your dog is lacking engagement, Ivan will have the person be like, hey, instead of worrying about training, just bring your dog out, let him sniff the field, let your dog just be a dog, and then next time we come out, then we'll worry about whatever. And I think that that's kind of what you're getting at, is instead of this like belief that your trainer is just going to like smash your dog and turn them into this robot that's just like sit down, come, go to place, be a doormat, stay out of the way. It's like you're being given permission, A, to enjoy your dog, but B, if your dog does something wrong, it's fine. He's a dog. He's going to do things
Yeah.
wrong. It's okay. We have a plan for it. And so that's something that's like, I agree with you. That's like super, super cool about TWC. Can you kind of go into what the TWC program kind of allowed you to do, in the sense of understanding that like you didn't have to continue to seek elsewhere for information? Like are you currently still having questions and then going to YouTube for answers?
No, there's no shot because you you get. I think that even people that are seen as sort of industry leaders, like I've been training dogs, or you're like your local legend, I've been training dogs for 30 years. I train police canines, yada yada. When you ask a lot of these people, hey, why did you just do that? Like what was your strat? Like what was the intention of that technique or whatever you just did with that dog? You'll get these formulaic responses like, well, if I let him leave the crate before I tell him, he'll think he can undermine me for the rest of his life. Or if I let the dog on the couch, then it's over. He's going to go back to attacking me. Like we're dead. And just logically, I'm just thinking, you really just don't. You're sort of just doing things because of the tradition of it, and because of the time sink. Like you've just been doing this forever, so you think that like there's no turning back. Training without conflict is very much like, hey, I want to have some sort of logical basis, some sort of rational basis, and then evidence after the fact that it works of the things that I'm doing. So when I'm working with clients and their dogs, I'm explaining to them as thoroughly as I can, this is why we are or are not doing this thing. And it's not just these platitudes like, oh, well, we have to be the leader. It's like, okay, but what does that actually mean? Like in practice, what does that actually mean? And training without conflict seriously challenges a lot of these things. So that concept of being a leader is not bad in training without conflict. In TWC, you get an extreme level of control over the dogs, but something like leadership, I think a training without conflict oriented question would be, if your leadership over the dog is destroyed because you let him sniff on a walk, do you actually have control over him? Like, that's the type of thinking that I have all the time.
Yeah, I think one of the big things is this idea of control,
Yeah,
and so many believe that control comes through just brute force, basically, where TWC really seeks to get control through cooperation.
right. Well, it's the structure. It's the structure addiction too. Not to cut you off, but like, it's the dogs need structure above all else. That's just not true. That's
Yeah,
just like totally not true.
yeah, 100%. I mean, it's people, and I think dog trainers love to lean on these buzzwords like structure and um relationship and what, and like they just don't really have any reasoning as to why they're even using those words, because like you waking up at the same time of day and feeding your dog at the same time of day and putting your dog in the crate at the same time of day and going for a walk at the same time of day, it doesn't create anything but a routine. It creates a routine, but it doesn't create a good dog. Now, what may create a good dog is consistency of always, creating the correct behaviors and rewarding for the correct behaviors. But people think that the secret sauce is in the structure, and it's just not. Like my dogs, I mean, they do have structure to a certain extent, but like I don't like, and to some people it might seem like chaos, but it's like there's mornings where I wake up and like they're playing and like I'm yelling and like stop, knock it off. One's yelping because the other one bit her too hard, and like but it's like it's just I'm just letting them be who they are. And there's a certain level of like freedom you have with your dogs when you are a dog trainer, because you can always reel it in, and you can't necessarily give that full freedom to the casual dog owner. But I think that that's something that I would have never done prior to TWC, because prior to TWC, at least for me, it was like, if the dog's out of the crate, they've got to be on place, because otherwise the world is going to end and a hurricane's going to hit and your apartment's going to be a disaster and your landlord's going to kick you out. Like it's just made to be this, like, unless you're structured, the world won't make sense, and that's just not the way it is. And it's the same that you're talking about with the couch and the bed and giving your dog some food off your plate. It's like all of these things happen. I do it, you do it, Ivan does it. Like Ivan, I mean, he had such a huge response last year when he posted the video of him taking a protection dog out to St. Pete and feeding the dog ice cream and fries. And so many people were just like appalled, because this dog is supposed to be, highly trained dog, and definitely is. But at the same time, it's like, this is not the way it has to be all the time. Because like, just flip it into a human sense. Like, you wouldn't want to live by the rules at work all the time. Like, you have to at some point, be yourself and be able to express who you are and do things that you obviously can't do at work. This belief that like the random cocker spaniel needs to always be at work is just like insane. Like, because
Yeah.
the dog wasn't designed for work in the first place.
Yeah.
And it's just so it's I mean, to like, and I don't know, I don't want to go down the road of using words like abusive or whatever, but it's like it's mean to tell this dog, hey, you can only live outside of your crate if you are quote unquote working, instead of just like, hey dude, like just come up on the couch, let's cuddle, or let's do whatever. Let's go for a walk. Let's play. Let's anything. And it's just very interesting to me that you kind of mentioned that. Um, Now, can you kind of talk about your experience now, like, because you're pretty deep down the TWC rabbit hole, like you've done the TWC certification program, you've done the expert program. Can you sort of talk about how you would express the value to an aspiring dog trainer or someone just starting out in the industry? Like, let's say they just created their business, but they're still very clueless about how they're going to make it happen, and still feeling very unskilled as dog trainers. Can you kind of talk a little bit about how the TWC course has helped you in that time period, and how you would let another dog trainer know how TWC can help them in that space?
So the that's another one I could go all day, but there's one big thing. There's one thing that I distinctly remember, one feeling I distinctly remember prior to training without conflict. Getting a phone call about something weird, like a home call. There's some weird behavioral thing going on with the dogs at this place, and potentially it's dangerous. On the drive to go to try to address these problems, I would be scared, not for my safety or anything, but just what if this is something I've never seen before? What if my flowchart methods that I've been replicating from YouTube videos, what if that fails? Like, are they going to be able to tell that I don't know how to address these weird scenarios? Post training without conflict, I get excited to see things I've never seen before. That anxiety just does not exist. The education and the change in, it's almost like a lens to look at problem solving, behavioral problem solving. It's actually an exhilarating experience. I'm almost hunting for situations that are going to challenge me. Whereas before, prior to TWC, I need to stay in my wheelhouse. And if I take a step out and it doesn't go well, I'm going to be horrified. I've never, it's just incredibly emboldening to know that I can go in and I have this lens to look at situations where I feel enabled to be creative versus having to stick to this box of conventional accepted methods, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's like in one of the previous calls that we've had, I kind of discussed this idea that dog trainers get, this idea of imposter syndrome, and the only cure for imposter syndrome is repeated success. And everyone's going to feel that way when they first learn something or when they approach something for the first time. And it's like I think one of the things that I find very interesting is, like, especially from this, like, quote, balanced trainer, sit down place, keep the dog out of the way school of thought, is that there's this belief that um oh man, I just lost my train of thought. I was talking about imposter syndrome. Ugh.
The only way to get over that is through repeated success.
Yeah. Ugh. It just totally left my brain. Uh okay. Anyway,
Yeah, yeah.
hopefully it comes back. But what I'm trying to get at is that the 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 current or that type of thinking just doesn't really doesn't really man, I'm like, I just totally got like super lost there. I don't know where my brain went. Let me just try to sort of point you in a different direction then, and maybe
Yeah,
it'll
yeah.
come back to me.
Hit
So
me.
like you were saying, this has kind of helped you, be excited um about the cases that you're taking on, um, can you kind of talk about a little bit now, um, if you were in the shoes of a new trainer, an aspiring trainer, how you would kind of tell them like, hey, this learning this now instead of waiting or instead of doing so much trial and error is going to help you as you move forward in the future.
Yeah, there are a couple angles, probably a few angles to go down there. I think that the first ethical one, especially if you're looking to deal with dogs that have any significant problems that are causing themselves to suffer or the people around them to suffer, there's an obligation, I think, as dog trainers to help people and dogs in those scenarios. If you try to do what I did initially prior to TWC, which is treat these scenarios like aggression, for example, as, hey, this is just a problem that if I just bash my head off of this wall enough times in a row, I'm going to just unlock the mysteries of the universe. And I'm going to know how to do this. Not only are you going to potentially get yourself hurt, but you're going to leave desperate people even more desperate. And you're not going to be able to help the dogs. So my major motivation for going into training without conflict was to be equipped to deal with those scenarios. But this is more on the extreme end. You could just do basic pet obedience. That can still be very high stakes. So if you need a good recall and you know that the client is not super talented, the better a job you can do with the dog and with the client, the better off they are going to be in the future. So you owe them an obligation to know what you're doing. And I just don't think it's a good, even though I learned a lot back then, I wouldn't do it again. I wouldn't go back and just try to DIY my way through 3 years. Because I think back at some of the dogs and I cringe. Like I seriously cringe. And I've gotten in touch with people from back then and I'm like, hey, like you've got free training with me, post training without conflict. Like let me right the wrong because I do have regrets and I should have gotten involved here earlier for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I have a very similar feeling is in that a lot of the training that I was doing prior to coming on board here was mainly using food and using a lot of transactional and behavior and go to place and balance school of training style stuff. And I have had very similar conversations because I'll still like, thankfully, I didn't do anything weird or unethical, or I never felt like I did something bad towards a dog. But it's like, man, I could have brought so much more out of that dog. And that's where the regret comes for me. It's just like, man, that dog was so cool. And if I knew what I know now, the level of like who that dog is would have been even better. And I had a very similar strategy when I would train clients is that like I would always tell them like my goal is to get your dog as close to 100% as possible because I know that when he goes home, he's going to drop. And if he's still 80% with you, then like we're cool. Like he's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And then for that 20%, I can help you fill in the gaps or I can teach you kind of strategies on how to mitigate that. But I've had those same conversations where it's just like, man, even just recently, and it's actually very interesting that it's you that's on the call today. It's a client that I referred to you because they were having some struggles with a new baby in the house, and that specific dog. It's like they messaged me and they're like, "Man, this dog is he's so cool, and he's just been for years this super obedient dog." And it's just like, okay, but we just made this huge life change. We just added a baby into the house. Can you help us? And like all I can do is think about like, man, I would train this so differently back like if I was doing it now. But again, thankfully I didn't do anything weird or wrong, so I don't have any like actual regret, but it's always going to be in the back of your head like, man, if I just knew what I know now. And I mean, this is just the way the dog training works because even with my personal dog, like there are things that I've learned now that if I were to start over training with him again for IGP, it's like things would be faster, they would be better. There wouldn't be so much, that messy middle area, and that's just the way dog training works. But I agree with you that it's just something that TWC does is it helps you take these massive leaps without having to go through that really brutal trial and error process. And there's a very cool quote that one of our trainers in the original course had, that she was basically saying like I'm thankful that I found this, because it allowed me to it prevented me from wasting time and money on other programs and other things, because I believe that I found the answer. And I feel like that's a very common thing where it's just like, and that's kind of why I asked you, like, are you still seeking out information on YouTube now that you've done it? Because I think that's a common thread amongst people who've done the program, where they're just like, I don't have to look elsewhere for information, because I know, A, it's probably either been provided for me in the program, or there's continued support here where they're going to help me understand my current issue. So that being said, can you talk a little bit about how kind of the TWC community and the community calls and the expert trainer calls, where we kind of discuss those cases post certification program, have kind of assisted in your education as a trainer?
Yeah, I mean the community element wasn't even something that I was particularly interested coming in, but it was something that I wanted, that I just didn't know existed, or I didn't know how helpful it could be. So the one thing that I during the moments early on, like when I was starting training, where I wanted to quit, I remember thinking just the one thing I wish I had, was someone I could just call right now and send some videos and be like, hey, have you ever seen this before? Like, what should I do here? And the training without conflict community is that on steroids. It's just this ever growing web of people that have the same background, the same priorities. Even if we're doing different things in different fields of dog training, I'm I'm happy to show training footage to graduates and people that are in the course. I'm happy. I get messages and phone calls from people in the course all the time. They're like, "Hey, can I run some things by you?" It's it's incredible to be able to have a back and forth with people that know what's going on, and they care about the dog first. Truly, not in name only. They truly are trying to help the dogs be better. And like, just thinking about, I wasn't entirely honest. You said, do I ever research other people, other like training systems online? I do, but not to learn what to do, but to know like what are the current trends in the mainstream, so that the dogs that I have going forward, I know how prior people messed them up. So like I it's just being around people that are highly motivated and have good information and care about the same things. It lets you get things done more reliably and more ethically, because I know if I hit a roadblock with any of these dogs, I have like 2 dozen people I could just call, like right now, like literally just the drop of a hat, and someone's going to have something that'll help.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think the coolest thing is that, and this is you kind of saying that, like, there's this, just the general philosophy that dogs are our best friends, and like having a large group of people with that basic foundational understanding changes everything in your conversations with dog trainers.
Yeah.
Because if they don't agree with that, everything else is going to be affected by their thought process.
Yeah, it's a non-starter. It's a non-starter. If I'm working with a dog that's struggling, why would I take advice from someone that thinks that that dog wakes up in the morning trying to destroy me?
Right.
Like that's
Right.
that's not it's fruit of the poison tree at that point. Anything that you do with the dog is going to be corrupted by this adversarial thought at the core.
Right, right, 100%. And I mean, I think one of the cool things is that because there's this just common thread of belief and understanding, like, and like you said, there's so many people in the community who do so many different things. Like, it's not like there's just, 500 pet trainers or 500 IGP trainers or whatever. It's like some are pet trainers, some do IGP, some do scent work, some do search and rescue, some do just different things. But everyone has this common understanding that like dogs are our best friends. And as long as that common thread is there, it not only allows everyone to help each other, but it also allows for the community to like stay very tight knit. Because like we just had the TWC annual summit, and it's always amazing to me that like and knock on wood, but like there we just have not had an experience thus far in the 5 years of that TWC and the certification course has been around that we have some like, rogue threat that there's just like one person starting all kinds of drama, or there's some group that's, kind of formed and they're just all of a sudden, there's no drama. There's no like weird social media fights amongst the community because everyone just has this common thread and common understanding of like, hey, we're all looking for the same thing, and it's just to maximize our relationship with dogs. And I think that just like having that common understanding really helps not only the community but just like the dog training industry as a whole.
Yeah, and there's an overwhelming sense I feel, especially like I can speak to the pet training world. There's an overwhelming sense of stagnation that I see where people have been training dogs the same way 5 years, 12 years, 30 years. And when I talk to other TWC graduates, or if I'm back at Ivan's, I'm at the facility and we're doing an event or something, there is absolutely, like you're saying, this level of comfort and camaraderie, but there's also this layer of intensity where like everyone is trying to get better. Like nobody wants to be training the same way 5 years from now. We're all trying to get better. We're all trying to see different things. We're all bouncing ideas off of each other. We're even getting into debates and critiquing each other, but it is all in the service of moving forward for the dogs.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I mean, and that's, like some people will say like I think one of the common things that especially like me, like I see everything, and I see the good, I see the bad, I see the people that are praising, I see the people talking crap, I see the people, whatever. And this very common thing, and it doesn't happen as much as it used to, but this thing about like, oh well, Ivan's just a sport trainer and why is he always talking about his championships? And it's just like, okay, number one, Ivan does not walk around telling everyone that he's won championships. Like it's not a real thing. So it's just like this made up thing that people have just fabricated. But the idea of his success as a trainer is contagious in the sense that it creates intensity for wanting to improve. And that's kind of what you're talking about is like no
Yeah.
one comes here to be the status quo.
Right.
Like no one comes here looking for tools in the toolbox.
Right.
They're like,
Right.
I'm going to go this weekend to this thing and I'm going to leave being a better trainer. Like
Right.
it's not just like, and it's almost like, very similar to this idea of this like transactional dog training sense of like I do the thing, I get the treat. And that's where like the people who go to workshops and they're like, oh, I'm going to get the tools in the toolbox. They're looking for the
Yeah.
treat.
Yeah.
But when you're
The tools in the toolbox thing has always bothered me. And it wasn't until training without conflict that I understood why. You don't go to training without conflict for a tool. You're not going to get, oh, did you know if you toss the treat over the dog's right shoulder, this is going to happen. You're going to get an entire overhaul on how you think you knew how to train dogs. And even just like baseline interact with dogs and understand dogs and look at dogs. It's not even, and it's entirely field agnostic. So to the point about Ivan kind of being like an IGP guy, yeah, he's an IGP guy, but he's a behavior guy. Like he's a deep behavior guy. And one of the things that you learn in training without conflict is that if there is a dog involved, this does not matter. It doesn't matter if it's scent detection, if you're on a sports field, or if you're dealing with a dog that has barrier aggression or something. Like if there is a dog, there is behavior, there's motivation, there's emotional intelligence and social dynamics. And that's the entire point. This is not like come here and learn these little contingency protocols for when things happen. It's like, no, this is like putting a pair of glasses on and you feel like Neo seeing the Matrix. It's like, holy, like, this is crazy. And one of the big benefits, too, to people that are thinking about signing up and they're thinking it's a huge time investment. I mean, it is to an extent, but the course does not make you wait to see that it's real. So I was training dogs the entire time that I was taking the course, however many months it is. And I would do the class calls, the lectures, and then I would go out and test these things in real time with client dogs. And the entire time I'm thinking, dude, this is real. Like this isn't just words on the screen. Like this is actual reality.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's very quick. And I don't want to get too deep into what you're going to see in the program, module 1, module 2, module 3, but it's very quick that you're like the amount of people on day 1, module 1, that are like, this has just flipped everything that I know about dog training on its head, is like crazy. Like that's such a common thing that happens. And it sometimes when I say that, I feel like people are like, oh, this is just like marketing speak, but it's like, it's just what people say. And I'll be the first to admit it was the same way with me. It's just like, there are so many times and so many things that I will hear or see Ivan do things that are directly opposed to the common belief or the common practice of dog training out there. And it's like amazing to see, because you're just like, oh my God, everyone else is doing things the wrong way and they don't even know it. And that's kind of what you talk about with feeling like Neo. And like Ivan has always kind of joked about this idea of like, I know Kung Fu. Where it's just like you really feel like you get to this point where you just like you feel like you're tapped in and you're just like, oh my God. Like
Yeah.
like it's not just a like mind explosion moment. It's just like
Yeah.
my whole brain is brand new.
Yeah.
And just to kind of piggyback onto that, we did get a question here, and we will be answering the questions. So if you guys have questions at all, there is a tab at the bottom that says Q&A. Feel free to enter your questions there. But someone did ask a cool question that says, what was the most unexpected benefit that Dylan gained from the TWC school that you didn't anticipate when you first enrolled?
So I touched on just like generally the community aspect, but I'll give an answer that's more dog training related. Stopping bad behavior is really easy. Like if you know what you're doing, and it is a core part of training without conflict, but it's not in the sense that you would think of with conventional training, which is like, oh, well, we just need to like smash the dog harder. So one of the things that's just mind blowing and almost mind numbing in some ways when I see dogs going through other programs dealing with the same issues for weeks and months and sometimes even longer than that, I'm looking at that going like, dude, right after I got done with the course, I probably could have stopped that in like a session, like when we would have moved on with our lives and been having a great time. So I knew going in, because I had watched Chase and Catch and the playing videos, I knew that I would learn about the power of play, and I did. And I'm still even just practicing it every day. I learn every day. But seriously, another superpower is just the ease by which, if you learn the concepts in TWC, that you can just stop bad behaviors without any blowback from the dog in these time frames that almost seem not normal, to where other trainers will look at it and go like, oh well, I guess the dog was never that bad, and maybe that was just like a quick fix. But the reason why they're thinking that is because they know that would have taken me like a month to even crack the egg on that. So that was something that completely stunned me. I even remember the numbers of the modules. I mean, we don't have to get into that, but like those were the moments where I was like, dude, this is like, are you serious? Like I didn't know this was possible.
Yeah, and I think the interesting thing is this idea of stopping behaviors. There's so much common belief that stopping behaviors requires punishment, that it's like aversive based
Right,
punishment. And
right.
like watching things in the course, watching Ivan train dogs make these changes in behavior in dogs without ever having to touch a leash,
Oh
or
my God.
it's
Yeah.
wild.
The subtlety that's you're exactly right. And that's exactly how I feel too. To go onto that eliminating bad behavior thing, TWC makes it very obvious, even on punishment to suppress or eliminate a behavior. There are more dials that exist than the physical power dial, which is the assumption that pretty much everyone has. And then you get into these arms races with the dogs where they've been destroyed by electric collars and prong collars because trainers just know to go harder, go harder, go harder, go harder. When you look at the material and training without conflict and you practice it and you understand it, you take a step back and you see that a lot of these misconceptions about training tools have been spawned by people thinking that to stop things, they just have to smash. And you can see the flaws even in like the widespread conversations around aversives and tools. And it totally, to call it mind blowing is actually underselling it, at least for me. Totally has changed how I train.
Yeah, yeah, and it's just super interesting. I mean, like, and there's one very specific case, like with one of my personal dogs, and you got to see her when you came for the expert weekend, where there was so much achieved with her. Like, I was actually attempting to do all the things with her and teach her things through the use of through the use of a reinforcement, and also by using the leash for negative reinforcement. And I just didn't spot that, like, because I was relying so much on the leash, there was no actual learning happened. And one of the like super eye-opening things that Ivan did, instead of being like, just put her where she needs to be, he was like, let her figure out where she needs to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, it was super difficult for me because it was just like, I had to sit there and wait. And when you've been training a dog and you're so used to this idea of like, I'm just going to put her where she needs to be because I'm helping the dog.
Yeah.
But you're actually not helping because the learning actually wasn't happening. And this isn't necessarily going to work for every dog, but this specific dog that I had right in front of me, it's like she really just needed me to wait and be like, no, I'm not going to help you. You now, because I know you know what to do, need to make the choice.
Yeah.
And when you make the choice, you'll be rewarded, but it's not going to happen. And it was like very awkward. And there was several people there, and it was super cool in the sense that like, it was so awkward for me to just sit and wait because
Right.
you're so programmed to be like, let me help her. Let me do this. Let me just put her and like it. And then as soon as she made the connection, so many things fell into place.
Yeah.
I think that's another thing that like is unexpected, is there may be one awkward moment in training that maybe takes a little bit longer, but the ripple effect of that awkwardness and that uncomfortability and the benefits that come from it is unbelievable.
Yeah. So I can say that watching those sessions with you and your dog were like, I had chills. And I feel like you made the adjustments. Like it was awesome to watch. But another example of that just happened with me yesterday. So a board and train I have right now, I think that by conventional standards, people would say is an extreme human aggression case. And I've had her for a few weeks, and I put my brother's visiting, and anytime he's here, if I have an aggression case, I put him in the bite gear, and I'm like, let's do this. And I just had him get out of his car, and I let the dog go, which is kind of like YOLO, we ball, whatever. But I put up a video of what happened on my Facebook, and like the dog runs up to him, barks, and kind of like jumps and punches him a little bit, and kind of muzzle punches him. And then you see afterwards, like she's pushing her head into his hands to pet. I got questions on the video from trainers going like, why didn't you correct her when she jumped and she barked? And I'm like, good question. But I would have. I would have. Years like before TWC, I would have been there with the electric collar. And the split second she did anything that I perceived as wrong, I would have been on it. But training without conflict is not about the trainer's perception. It's about the dog's perception. So by being slow, oh, your timing, like I'm sure you see this too, where super mechanically minded, crunchy trainers, they'll think that my timing is bad. No, I'm letting the dog breathe. Like I'm letting her think and cooperate with me and make decisions. And like you with your dog, it's like letting the dog's brain work without human tampering constantly. So a huge takeaway from TWC for me is like being able to recognize when you're actually in a true partnership with the dog and you're trying to set them up to win, not to program them 24 hours a day and more or less have bumpers on the guardrail and not let them make any choices. And that goes especially for dogs that are struggling, you know?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's just it's like you said, there's so many people out there who are just waiting for the dog to do something wrong so they
Right.
can immediately punish. And sometimes waiting for the dog to actually do the thing that's wrong, watching the dog do the thing, watch how the dog does it, watch the thought process of
Yeah.
why it's happening and understanding why can help you come up with a solution much faster than if you were quick with your timing and just zap the dog the
Yeah.
second that it did something wrong. So that's 100% another very, very unexpected and just very important thing that we learned in the TWC program. So real quick, I do, because we are talking a lot about the TWC program. We let me just kind of talk a little bit about the program itself, and then we'll kind of do a little bit more Q&A. So if you do have questions here, once again, there is a tab at the bottom that says Q&A. If you have any questions, just go ahead and put your question in there, and we will go ahead and address those. But real quick, let me go ahead and jump into this information about the Training Without Conflict program, because I'm sure people have questions about what we're talking about. Okay, so why certification? As we've kind of been talking about, dog training is a highly competitive industry. Once again, Americans spend $50 billion a year on their pets. Lots of people have dogs. The industry's been shown to be recession proof. Like I said, right now, because it's so competitive, there are people in the industry that have kind of just tried to pilfer through and swallow up all the little fish. And this is kind of what this picture means is there is a red ocean industry and a blue ocean industry. So when there are sharks in the water, and they're pilfering for the weakest fish out there. That's what creates a red ocean industry. And that's when you see a lot of these trainers who try to start their dog training businesses and they are unable to succeed. And then they just get swallowed up by these people offering them overnight success. And then they just end up, obviously not bloody in the water, but they just end up in a place where you don't want to be. Now, a blue ocean industry, as you can see, water's blue, it's full of fish, very similar to things that happen and things that we've kind of been discussing. A blue ocean industry is one where you're able to actually distinguish yourself from other trainers in the industry. And that's what TWC offers. You're teaching in a different way. You're providing different answers. You're providing better levels of success. You're providing better looking dogs. People around the world are seeking expert help. Here's a look at some of our TWC trainers. One thing that we kind of covered throughout the call: training without conflict is the cheat code to becoming an expert dog trainer. How are you able to learn things so quickly? Well, like I said, we're talking about learning from Ivan. Ivan has unparalleled knowledge. So Ivan is a 2-time IGP world champion, 15-time IGP national champion. He has 40 plus years of experience in training dogs, 40 plus years of breeding Belgian Malinois. He's a former guide dog instructor at the Guide Dogs for the Blind in San Rafael, California, and also the former training director at the San Francisco ASPCA, which was the first no-kill shelter in the United States. That's a lot of different types of experience and also just an endless amount of dogs that he's seen over the years. And it allows him to have truly unparalleled knowledge. And I think that that's a common saying with some of the trainers that are teaching schools out there. But I don't think that there is another trainer in the industry offering their teachings that has Ivan's level of experience in the dog training world and industry. Training without conflict is not another tool in your toolbox. Training without conflict is the only dog training methodology founded on the proven principles of behavioral psychology. Training without conflict is a radically different approach to training dogs. As we kind of were talking about throughout the call, there's a big difference in the way that you see what the dogs trained in the TWC methods look like versus what you see from the common balance trainer on Instagram or YouTube or any other social media. As you guys can see in some of these photos, dogs are having a great time. They're playing, but they're also experiencing a lot of love. There's relationship. This isn't a fake, you do the thing, I give you the ball relationship. This is not an interaction where we're just relying on the transaction of a reward in order to leverage that in order for you to do the thing that we want you to do. The goal here with TWC is for the dog to want to do things in order to have a good time with you or their owner or their handler. It's not just about you, dog gets ball. Definitely not about that. And you can see that through these pictures. And anytime you're able to watch Ivan train and anytime you're able to watch anybody using TWC methods, you'll see that in practice. So why TWC certification? You owe it to your dog. By using play, training without conflict, trainers are able to tap into your dog's genetic gifts to create results by controlling and guiding their natural abilities. Why else? You owe it to your clients. Your clients expect high level and lasting results that they can understand. Dylan talked a lot about not only getting results, but results that last, and why TWC trainers are very rarely getting clients referred out to other trainers. That typically TWC trainers are the trainers that get sought out when other trainers have failed. Your clients expect like I said, your clients do expect high level results. Why else TWC certification? You'll crush the competition. So like Dylan was once again saying, he's getting cases and getting dogs that other trainers have failed. That's a common thread across most TWC trainers, and they're able to get results. The dog trainer that can achieve the best and most lasting results while maintaining the motivation and happiness of a dog and communicate how those results were achieved wins. So Dylan kind of alluded to this during the call and kind of saying that like not it's not just about results because anybody can get a dog to sit or down, but if they look like absolute just whatever doing it, it's not good for you, it's not good for the owner, and it's not good for getting clients. But if you can get good and lasting results and maintain motivation and happiness and have a good time, and most importantly, communicate with an owner how those results were achieved, you're going to have success. And one thing that we did kind of touch on was unexpected. One unexpected benefits of the TWC method. And I think one of the unexpected benefits is how clearly and concisely you're able to explain things. Ivan had an email that went out last year, I believe, that's kind of piggybacked off of an Einstein quote where if you are not able to explain it to a 6-year-old, then you don't know what you're talking about. And that's with TWC, you're actually able to concisely and easily communicate how something was able to be done by you or by another trainer, or even if the owner did it, you can explain to them why they had success. And you're able to do it in like a super concise, very clear way. So when it's called training without conflict, it's not just about avoiding conflict with the training the dog. You're also avoiding conflict in having confused clients. You're not leaving people in the dark, or you're not just saying, because there's so many dog trainers who just go into dog trainer speak hoping to confuse the client so they stop asking questions. And that's just not something that TWC people do. We actually want to give you the answer. And if you don't understand it, please ask more, because we have the answers and we're able to explain that to you. And we take a lot of pride in being able to do that. Let me just go ahead and jump back into this real quick. So lastly, you owe it to yourself. There's so many people, especially this time of year, we're getting right around to the new year. There's so many people that have this, New Year's resolution, and this is going to be the year that I really make the leap. And I've been wanting to do this for such a long time. And I love training dogs. I love being around dogs. And, you owe it to yourself. This can be the year where you actually take that leap and actually become who you've been wanting to be for a long time. And I just want to kind of touch on some testimonials here from people who took that leap. Here's Amir. He says, I made my way through module 10. I spent most of the time on the 2 lessons on progression. Wow. Just wow, Ivan. These 2 lessons were the most intense and most important lessons from any live seminar or pre-recorded dog training lesson from any dog trainer that I have ever taken. For me, these 2 lessons alone are well worth the price of admission to this course. I will forever be grateful for Ivan's willingness to share this knowledge with us. I'm just a dog owner. I just goof around with my dogs. But if I were a professional dog trainer like some of you guys, I would feel privileged to be amongst such a small group of trainers with this knowledge. And I feel like I have a huge competitive advantage over other trainers thanks to Ivan, a competitive advantage that I would protect. Here's Vivian. She's from Singapore. She has a BA in psychology and a master's in neuroscience. She says, I've taught learning and behavior lab in a university in Texas and animal behavior and communication in the Singapore Polytechnic. Although we've only done 4 modules so far, I must say that this course resonates with me tremendously. I love the strong emphasis on the relationship with the dog. I've been to many courses and seminars with many trainers. However, the deep appreciation and understanding of psychology that Ivan has is incredible and unique. Ivan's ideas are at the forefront of dog training. As a former academic, I can say that science has not even caught up with many of the ideas that are discussed here. I'm thankful for the opportunity to be in this course. And that kind of touches on what Dylan talked about earlier, is that the course doesn't make you wait to show you that it's going to blow your mind. It happens quick. She's saying that we've only done 4 modules and she's already having this type of feeling. Chris Valdez, one of our TWC certified trainers, truth, catapult your skills to levels way beyond typical dog training. Ivan's course is like no other, and his support is incredible. This course has been the very best investment I've made in my dog training career. Get ready to have the best relationship possible with your dog and be able to share that gift with your clients as well. Thank you, Ivan and family. Truly proud to be part of this revolution in dog training. If you're thinking about doing this, think no more. This course is being offered at a steal of a deal and will return your investment over and over and over again. And lastly, Darlene, Ivan is by far the best dog trainer in the world. I've taken the training and my dog training business is taking off. Everything in this video is true. Well worth the investment in yourself. And then just to kind of give you guys an idea of where TWC trainers are at, we actually polled our TWC trainers to ask them kind of how their businesses are doing. 80% of TWC certified trainers have more business have more business than they can handle. The remaining 20% have enough business to be successful. We did not have any members in the community that said that they are not able to get clients. And one reason I'm going to get into a little bit later, and how powerful the community can be. We not only can be successful by ourselves, but we can actually refer to other people that we can trust provide the same level of attention and the same level of knowledge that we have. And that's how the TWC trainers can stay having successful businesses, and in many cases more business than they can actually handle. So what is the TWC certification program? So there's two paths to choose from. If you are a dog trainer who just started your dog training business, or you've had a dog training business for a long time, we have the professional certification program. This is for professional dog trainers with existing businesses. And if you're an aspiring dog trainer looking to become a professional dog trainer, we do have the practitioner certification, which is for dog owners without a dog training business. So this would be anybody aspiring to become a dog trainer, dog sport enthusiasts, people who just want to improve their lives with their own personal dogs. Now, both levels enjoy Ivan's comprehensive science-based training system that will forever change how you interact with dogs. Both levels also enjoy 24/7 access to 18 mind-blowing modules where you'll learn the TWC methodology through the TWC Academy. There are 18 modules. I will let you guys kind of in the replay go through and take a look at this, but all the modules are listed on our website as well. This is kind of what you'll learn throughout the TWC program. Both levels also enjoy access to a private Facebook group where you can discuss questions and cases with the TWC students. So that's kind of what Dylan was getting at earlier when he was saying that if he has questions on a case, he always has somewhere he can go to get answers. Both levels also enjoy access to 4 private class Q&A calls with Ivan via Zoom. These calls sometimes can last 4+ hours. This past class, I'm pretty sure I had a class that was at least 5.5 hours. So Ivan gives so much time to these calls to make sure that every single person who's taking part in the class really feels like they understand it at the end of these calls. Both levels also enjoy access to the TWC archive. So it's not just about the TWC Q&As that you'll get during your class. When you complete your class, you will actually get access to every single Q&A that's ever happened. And at this point, we've had close to 20 classes. You will have access to hundreds of hours of video. And if you want to go down the rabbit hole of learning as much as you can about TWC, the information is there. And I promise you, you're not going to have to go to YouTube to learn any of it. It's all there, and it's directly from Ivan. There's no other instructors. There's no other trainers. It's just Ivan talking directly to trainers, providing as many answers as he can. And there's truly like hundreds of hours of this at this point. Both levels also enjoy early access to TWC workshops. So whenever we announce a workshop, the first people that we tell are people in the TWC certification community. And they're the first people who get access. And as you guys have probably learned in the last couple of years, our workshops fill up extremely quickly. And so getting early access to those is a very big perk, I think. Professional trainers enjoy the opportunity to attend the TWC Trainers Weekend to take their final exam. TWC certified trainers enjoy the use of training without conflict methods with their clients. Now, if you're a TWC certified trainer and complete the program, you also get promotion and listing on the TWC certified trainer directory. So if you go to our website, trainingwithoutconflict.com, and click on the menu, there's a tab that says find a trainer. You can actually find a TWC trainer that's certified by Ivan that is closest to you and get access to them. As well as if you decide to take the course, become a certified trainer, you would also be on this directory. And the cool thing, having talked to many of the trainers who have been graduated for a significant amount of time, it no longer becomes about you seeking out clients. You actually get clients that find you on the directory, call you, and they're like, hey, I want the thing that you have to offer. Instead of sitting back and wondering where the clients are going to come from, there are actually people who are looking for you, and they're like, hey, I want my dog to look like that. I want my dog to learn to play. I want my dog to be excited. And you're no longer having to deal with seeking out and working hard to find these clients who don't have an ability to or don't have any desire to train that way. TWC trainers also enjoy monthly Zoom calls to discuss ongoing cases. Dylan, real quick, can you talk about kind of how the Zoom calls have been beneficial for you being a member of the community? My camera's about to die and I just need to plug it in, so I just need a second.
No, that's okay. Yeah, the Zoom calls, whether you're actively taking the course or if you've graduated, they're sort of like the part of the ongoing education, at least for me, because what's really interesting with the graduate calls is that people will submit cases oftentimes with video footage, and being able to see something like you can sort of get it out of the way. Like if you see a really bizarre resource guarding case on a call, and Ivan will just get really passionate about it. He'll go on for hours. You can really get so much of an idea of multiple angles that you could approach an issue like that. So that by the time you see something like that in person, you can just go, oh yeah, dude, like we had a 3-hour call on this exact problem before. And I think it's really important too that you can practice a lot of your almost client relations on the call too, where you get to practice talking to the other trainers, explaining what you believe and what your methods are. So that by the time you go to explain something to a client in person, you're already incredibly fluent in the language and you're able to like conversationally have a back and forth about what's going on with the dogs so that you're not caught stammering and looking for answers when you're talking to the client. That makes sense.
100%. One of the interesting things that I actually tell people, especially trainers that are going through the course, is that one of the benefits of those Zoom calls is being able to talk about TWC, and learning to speak TWC with other people is actually going to help you immensely as a trainer, because you're not going to feel like you don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
And so that's definitely a big benefit. So let me go ahead and just jump back into this real quick. Okay. Okay, so TWC certified trainers enjoy monthly Zoom calls to discuss ongoing cases. So once you complete the program and you become a TWC certified trainer, you continue to have monthly Zoom calls. So it's not just the 4 calls during your class and just the access to the Q&A archive. As certified trainers, you actually continue to have monthly Zoom calls to discuss ongoing cases. TWC certified trainers also enjoy the opportunity to attend the annual TWC certified trainer summit. So every single year, typically in December, we just invite all the certified trainers to come. And it's mainly just a weekend of additional information, additional lectures, and a lot of training dogs. It's the opportunity during the year that TWC certified trainers have to bring their personal dogs to work with Ivan. So it's a very, very cool experience, because not only are they here to just generally learn, but they get this opportunity to work hands-on with Ivan with their personal dog. So you can actually grow not only as a trainer yourself, but your dog can also improve with Ivan's eyes kind of taking a look at you. TWC certified trainers also enjoy the opportunity for further TWC education programs. So, like I kind of mentioned with Dylan, he did enroll in the TWC expert trainer program. So that is the higher level of TWC certified trainers. So that is definitely something to look forward to once you become a certified trainer. So, are you ready to join the community? So, before we get to the price, I want to ask you guys one question. And this is kind of what I was alluding to earlier and why you owe it to yourself. I want to ask you one question. What is your dream worth? Like, truly, especially right now that we're getting close to this January 1st, New Year's resolution, New Year, New Me thing. What is your dream worth to you? Who you want to become in the future? What is that truly worth to you? We pride ourselves on our community, and we want you to be a part of it. So if you believe that your clients are worth it, that your dogs are worth it, and most importantly, that your dream is worth it, if you believe in those things, we'd love to have you join something special. So the investment in the TWC certification program for professionals is 10,000 US dollars. For practitioners, it is 8,000 US dollars. And one thing that I want to touch on is that this price, I don't know if you guys have seen the emails and the information that we've been putting out. This price is actually increasing starting January 1st. So starting January 1st, this is going to be going up to 12,000 US dollars for professionals and $10,000 for practitioners. So if you are looking to join the program and ready to take that leap, I would encourage you guys to do that before December 31st, so you can lock in the current price of 10,000 US dollars for the professional certification and 8,000 for the practitioner certification if you're going to go down that road. Real quick, I want to touch on, so this call is about how to become a professional dog trainer. So a very common question that we get, especially in the Q&A, is how do I make the leap from being a practitioner to becoming a professional dog trainer? So the way that you would go about it is you would enroll as a practitioner, you would complete the course, and then you're kind of able to, and you're given time to start your business, start to get a little bit of knowledge and practice in training dogs. And once you feel ready and your business is kind of off the ground, you can upgrade to the professional certification program and then start that process of becoming a TWC certified trainer. So that's essentially how that would go. So that's one of the main questions. So let me real quick take a look here at the Q&As to see if there's any things that come up. Okay. As far as questions go. Okay. Please, my internet has been shit. Will there be a recording? Yes, we are recording. And this will be available shortly after the call. John, so do you think it's important to get some hands-on experience training dogs prior to enrolling in the program? Or are you guys saying it's better for very inexperienced trainers or prospective trainers to just jump straight into the course? Is it common for inexperienced trainers to enroll? Yeah, so it is 100% very common for inexperienced trainers to enroll in the TWC, either practitioner or a professional program if they did start their business. I will say that I think it's actually easier for an inexperienced dog trainer to jump into the TWC course and have success than it would be if you were like a 10-year seasoned veteran of the dog training industry. Because what happens is if you really went down a rabbit hole that is not necessarily the best one, you are going to spend a lot of time unlearning and being made very uncomfortable by realizing that some of the things you've done were not the correct way to go about things. And it's actually a little bit more difficult for professional trainers that have been in the industry for a long time to unlearn their bad habits or misinterpreted knowledge. So maybe Dylan, do you want to talk a little bit about how you would recommend or what your belief is on whether an inexperienced person would have success in the course?
Well, yeah, I mean, I can testify to what you just said. Uh, I had only been training dogs for 5 years before TWC. And even just in that period of time, I sort of had a reckoning with how I was utilizing the electric collar the whole time. And I was like, okay, like a little bit of an ego hit. Like, have I seriously been doing this wrong? Like the complete opposite direction, the way that everyone says is the right way to do it. I've been doing it wrong the entire time. So I could imagine being a true veteran, it could be emotionally damaging to have to reckon with that on a really, really large scale. And often I am, in a way, jealous of people that training without conflict is their baseline of operation. And you're not having to deprogram and even just muscle memory. It is insane how you can learn the concepts, but you really do have to flush it out of your system. Where we kind of talked earlier about people that are quick to jump on dogs. And that's something that going through the course, I literally had to tell myself, dude, I'm just going to put the remote in my pocket because this is not what's being taught here. You know, so I think as a fresh start, it is a beautiful thing for sure.
Yeah. I completely agree. And anytime that I have to give advice to people prior to enrolling in the course, like I genuinely believe it's actually much easier for someone that's inexperienced. And yes, you are going to have to spend time getting hands on dogs and learning about actual dog work. That is going to be where your learning curve is at. But at least you're doing it with the correct foundation in place. And that's genuinely it's going to help you leap forward on a lot of trainers who have probably been training for a long time that are doing the wrong things. The foundation really is everything. Let's see here. Uh, if you could go back and give advice to yourself before starting the TWC school, what would you say and why?
Yeah, I think that to go off of what we just talked about, to not be insulted by having my preconceived notions challenged. And I think everyone will have a different feeling on that. But for me, it was a little bit of a shock to know that like I am here to learn new things, but the extent to which it is new and almost completely contradictory to the things that I had been taught, it is at some level a little unsettling to know that I have been doing this completely wrong for years. So I would say to myself back then, just let it go. Like just don't have any weird emotional feedback about it. It's like just forget about it. And I'm not going to say I wallowed in that feeling for a while, but there was one time I talked to Ivan where I was like, dude, I feel like an asshole. He was like, what are you talking about? I was like, I spent 4 years just being an asshole to dogs. And he was like, dude, forget about it. Like you can recognize that, understand that, and then move on with this. So I think that telling myself that and being able to reach that point quicker would be the only real advice I could think of now.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny that you say that because I feel the exact same way. Like and I wouldn't necessarily phrase it the same way because for me, if I could go back and give myself advice prior to starting TWC, I would say that I just needed more patience. I think that I had a lot of preconceived notions because of the education and foundation that I had in balance training and transacting for food, that it's like, okay, if you don't do, then there is a consequence. If you do, then there is a consequence. And understanding that like I could have just had patience in so many situations that like I feel like I was unfair. Um, I would have made so many more improvements as a dog trainer. So, very, very similar. And I think, I mean, we have like from the original course, we actually have a video of one of our certified trainers, Mitz, where he just says like, I just feel like I got to go home and apologize to my dog. Like,
Yeah.
it's just one of those things where like, and I feel that with my personal dog. Like he's sitting here, he's the happiest dog in the world. Couldn't be more spoiled. He flew first class with me to Europe. Like he's the most spoiled guy ever. He's had a great life, but there's still moments where I'm just like, man, if I had just known how to do this prior to the day that I learned it, I would have avoided so many little weird things that because those things always arise later on. And it's again, there's sometimes where I start to talk about things and I'm like, man, I could talk about this for hours, and I have to kind of curb myself from doing that. But like it's very much so right down the same road as you're talking about, where if I just had to give myself advice prior to starting it, it would just be to have more patience with the dogs. Um, let's see here. Um, was there, and if so, what part of the TWC experience do you think had an impact on your growth, not just as a trainer, but as a professional or as a person overall?
Yeah. I think as a natural consequence of being able to be more cooperative, diplomatic, and really enjoying on the dog side, it completely changed how I interact with clients too. And I'm not trying to give the impression that I was a jerk to clients, but I think that if you are trapped in the operant conditioning, click food, low stim conditioning bubble, you're kind of a control freak at some level. And that has an effect on how you handle the client and the direction that you give the client. So I can think back and I feel again, almost I feel bad in a way where I was kind of just an annoying teacher. I was like a teacher that gave out busy work for the sake of it. I was checking in on people with this sort of disapproving, what do you mean you weren't out in the driveway at 6:30 this morning doing food luring drills with your dog? And now it's just completely like I'm meeting people where they're at. It's like, hey, I'm a dog owner too. Like there's no difference. And the way that I can be with the clients truly does feel like we're on a team. It's not just in name only. I'm not here to bark orders at you. I'm truly here to help.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I feel very similar in the sense that like it just and again, like I think for me it created patience
Hmm.
because I didn't have that desire to just be like that disapproval, and there's just this like, and then once again like I don't mean to just like say balanced trainers are bad or whatever, but like there are common threads that exist in that world. And there is this common thread of like, if you're not having success, it is due to the owners not following your direction. And there's this
Yeah.
desire to place blame on someone else.
Yeah.
And I think the cool thing about TWC is it's not just dog learning. It is animal learning and understanding behavior. And the reason that I feel like there's this like really great improvement as a person is you start to realize how you can use some of the concepts that you were intended to be learning for dogs, but it's actually allowed you to actually help with human behavior because you can use the same concepts of whether it be reinforcement or even if it's negative punishment with like an actual human being, you can actually use it in a way that's like, hey, I need you to do this, but I'm not like, of course you're not going to bash your client over the head, but like you can actually do it in a way that's like helpful and actually gets through to them because you understand the concepts of animal learning. And it's not just about dogs, it's about just all animals in the world. And I think the byproduct for me was patience, but the way that it got there was through the understanding of that animal learning. Next question. I would love to start the TWC program. Have been working with shelter dogs for 3 years and just started my own business half a year ago. I want to start building my knowledge and combine it with my experience and kind of start off with the best start possible. But I feel like I won't be able to enroll in the certification program. So I'm not sure why you would feel like you can't enroll in the program. You are more than welcome to enroll. Like, there is no level of skill required to do the TWC program. Like, you don't need to be some high level trainer. You don't need to be a top level trainer. You can simply be someone that's like, hey, I just got a dog. I know nothing about dog training, and I just want to make sure this dog has the best life. Like, we've had several people who are like, I just got a puppy and I just want to make sure that that puppy has the best information throughout its life. And that's one thing also I will tell you, whether you want to be a professional dog trainer or not, if you are someone who just is enthusiastic about dog training, owning dogs, and you know you're going to have a lot of dogs over your lifetime, the amount of money that you will save from having to see another trainer by understanding these concepts for your current dog and for every future dog that you have is going to be like insurmountable, because dog training is only going to get more expensive. And having come from New York City, where like I worked for someone who was charging $8,000 to $10,000 for a board and train, like it is something that can get very expensive. And if you can just do all that work yourself, understand that stuff, and at the same time have a great time and great relationship with your dog, like, I don't really know how you could turn that down. So again, kind of went a little bit deep on the answer to this question, but don't feel like you need some level of intelligence as far as dog training goes, or some level of experience prior to starting, because you absolutely can come in this completely green and gain a ton of information out of it and knowledge. Let's see here, just a few more questions. How many times should pass so an average student who finishes the certification can understand and use your system for long time results? So the question is written kind of interesting, but I believe what you're asking is how much time should pass so an average student who finishes the certification can use the training system effectively. So like Dylan said, he started to see results almost immediately because he was training dogs actively throughout the process of the program. I think that that's true. But one thing that Ivan says in the course itself is that the information that you're learning is going to pay dividends for the remainder of time. Like, you're going to see results today, but then 4 years from now, you're going to get a dog and you're going to be like, man, I would have never in my life been able to figure this out had I not learned what I learned in the TWC program. And it's going to hit you, and it's going to be a wave that comes over you, and you're going to be like, what the hell? Like, it's super, super cool when you have one of those moments, because I think so many people who go seminar hopping or are in this tools in the toolbox headspace, they're very much like seeking that immediate, like, oh, here's my new little tool, here's my new little socket wrench, but you're not getting that. You're literally learning. It's like another like parable that Ivan kind of goes into is the parable about learning how to fish versus providing someone with the fish. It's, you teach someone to fish, they'll have fish for the rest of their life. Whereas if you just gave someone fish that day, they're only going to have it for that day. And Ivan's goal is to teach someone to be able to have that dog training knowledge and for it to exponentially grow upon itself over time. So there's no given specific amount of time before you can start to use this information. It'll pay dividends immediately, but it's only going to get better as time goes on.
The levels are revealed over time, is how I would say it. Like, when you do the course and you're in the course, you learn the stuff, you understand it, and you can practice it. But even now, I still am like, I'm just discovering how powerful play is. Like, I was doing it well during the course and after the course, but now and going forward, I can feel that, like, the depth of it is just now occurring to me, and how far you can really go.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And again, like I know, like having gone through that experience already, I know that it's just going to continue to happen with
Yeah.
either future clients or future dogs, that it's just going to be something that you just realize, like, man, like it's just like,
Keeps going.
yeah, like I didn't realize that this was going to come into play today, but
Yeah.
I'm so thankful that it's there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anonymous attendee asks, I'm curious how hard it is to pass the course. I have a friend who still not has been able to pass the course. I'm worried about not being able to pass the test as I've never been a good test taker. So, this is again a common question. Um, how difficult it is really comes down to how well you can understand the concepts. And I think one reason that the TWC program can seem more difficult is it's not about memorizing things that Ivan says in the course. The exam is not about you writing down the thing that Ivan said in module 1 and just making sure you remembered that thing. It's truly about showing an understanding of dog training. And I know people will probably have a question about what the exam looks like. It's a very interesting exam because it has multiple choice, it has true false, it has short answer questions, but it also has these questions where it just asks you to come up with training plans for very specific dog training cases. And there are certain ways that certain trainers approach certain cases, and then there's ways that a TWC trainer would approach them. And we are just looking for you to show an understanding of how a TWC trainer would approach it versus how a typical trainer would approach it. So, just for example, some of the things that we've kind of talked about, this transactional idea of treats and behaviors. TWC trainers don't operate that way. So if you start to answer a question like that type of trainer, then you would most likely get it wrong. But you should have an understanding as you grow in the course. Now, that being said, we provide people with as many resources as possible to be able to pass the program within their allotted time. So, for anybody asking, the allotted time to pass the program is 1 year, and you do get 3 opportunities to take the exam within that year. So in order for you to pass, you would have to pass the written exam during that time and then the practical exam. The written exam, if you were to take it and not pass on your first time, you would get a dedicated 1 hour call with either me or Ivan, where you have a feedback session based on your very specific exam. And we do that. It's not like a simple, like, here's your wrong answers, here are your right answers. It's like, no, we're going to sit down. We're going to make sure that you understand what you got wrong, what you got right, and where the conceptual misunderstanding happened. And we're going to talk about how you can start to point yourself in the right direction by understanding the concepts as we get through the call. So it's not just about right or wrong and here's your test and see you in 6 months or whatever. It's truly a discussion to make sure that you understand any deficiencies you might have had during a previous exam. And so again, if that were to happen a second time, you get another one of those calls. So it's very dedicated to you. It's catered to you. So we do everything we can to make sure that you are able to pass the exam process within the year. So how hard it is going to depend on person to person, but we do everything we possibly can to make sure that a person is successful. It really, like, it is not our goal to have people take the course and not pass. Like, that's very much not the case. We would never ever want to do that, because we certainly want people to become certified trainers and help as many people as possible, because that is truly the goal of TWC, is to provide the world with more knowledgeable and better dog training. And the more people we have out there, the better. The big part of passing the exam comes into just meeting the standard of what other certified trainers are out there. And we want to make sure that if Dylan recommends you, that we know that you have a certain level of knowledge and understanding about TWC concepts. So we know that recommending you will also lead to successful dog training. So that's kind of where that comes into play. Here we go. Joao, I'm not a professional. Is the practitioner and the professional course equal? If not, can I take the professional? The practitioner has tests and exams. Okay. So the practitioner and the professional course is exactly the same. There's no difference in the content whatsoever. The only difference between the practitioner and the professional is that the professionals come to Ivan's place and take an exam. Uh, and that's where they take their written exam. There's a trainer weekend. They're able to see Ivan's training a little bit more lectures, and they also have an opportunity to have a kind of a community dinner to get to know everybody. And that's what happens at the TWC trainer weekend. The practitioners do not have an exam, but there are quizzes throughout the course that you are able to do. So, but as far as the content in the course itself is exactly the same. Now, like I was saying before, a great strategy if you're not currently a practicing professional dog trainer would be to enroll in the practitioner program. And then once you are ready and have established your business, you can upgrade to the professional program and become a certified trainer. Let's see here. I'm thinking of volunteering at a shelter to train dogs. How many dogs should I train before taking on actual clients? I mean, for me, this question's gonna just be up to each person. It's gonna be different. There's no set number of dogs. Like if you're gonna help your friend teach their dog how to sit, and you know how to teach a dog how to sit, then you don't need to help any dogs at the shelter. Like as long as you're skilled in the thing that you're claiming to teach, you are going to be able to have success. Now, would I tell you that you should go and work on behavior cases without ever working on a dog? Absolutely not, because you don't know what to do. But you should only be working with clients where you are sure that you can help them. And that comes back to how to be a successful dog trainer. You never want to take people's money to do a thing that you don't know how to do, because then you are truly just scamming them. And it's okay to not know what you to not know what you need to do, because you can't train every dog. I can't train every dog. There's going to be dogs out there that are just above your skill, above your pay grade. And that's okay. And that's where the TWC directory comes into play. There's always going to be someone that you can refer to. So that's kind of what I would say. Is you volunteering at a shelter to train dogs going to be helpful for you? Like 1000%. And Dylan, I know you train a lot of shelter dogs. So do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Dude, it's an untapped gold mine. So one of the goals that I had was, once I graduate, if I pass the test, one of the first things I want to do is I want to go find a shelter that will let me come in and get to work. And the first thing that I thought when I started was, training without conflict works with these dogs too. And I actually think it almost feels like it was built for these dogs. The second thing I thought was, why did I wait? Like, I should have been doing this during the course. Because I could go very passionate about this, but one of the huge things that you're looking for when you're trying to get repetitions is a variety of dogs that are highly motivated. So like a low motivation dog is a dog trainer's kryptonite. That's where things can start to get challenging. I think most would agree. So when you're just at the beginning trying to get reps and you're trying to practice playing or learning concepts, you've got rows of dogs that are just waiting for someone to see them. And they're like, what are we doing? Like, take me out for 20, 30 minutes and let's just kick some ass and have fun. You can get years of reps just by going to shelters and just going dog, 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 and practice teaching basic obedience, practice the mechanics of play. And you can seriously jettison yourself ahead.
Yeah, I mean 1000%. I mean, I think if you're able to go anywhere that has a high volume of dogs that you can get your hands on, it's going to be super super helpful. And those shelter dogs are very specifically, like you said, untapped gold mine because they're so pent up. They're seeking an outlet
Yeah,
so much, like they need it so badly. And if you're the one to provide it for them, they're going to open up to you so quickly.
yeah.
Okay, last question here. If I did the practitioner course before the price goes up and then later upgrade to the professional program, would you honor the original price? Yeah, so there is there's the upgrade price will not be changing whatsoever, regardless of the price of the full enrollment for the course. So the upgrade price is exactly the same. We have no intention of changing that anytime soon. So the upgrade price would not be changed whatsoever from you doing the practitioner course. So the price change is exclusively for enrollment in the full course. The actual upgrade itself, the price is not changing whatsoever. So the only thing changing is the professional course is going to go up to 12,000 and the practitioner course is going to go up to 10,000. So I certainly would recommend anyone who's interested in joining to join us. So just real quick, I'll jump back in here just to provide the slide. Let's see here. Okay, so yeah, so the investment once again is going to be 10,000 currently. 10,000 US dollars for the professional certification and 8,000 for the US or for 8,000 US dollars for the practitioner certification. And again, that is going up December or January 1st, 2025. So if you plan to enroll, please do so before December 31st. 2024, and you'll be able to lock in the current price before it goes up to $12,000 and $10,000. So I want to thank everybody for being on the call today. I think we've gone through a lot of stuff. I think I feel like we talked about a lot. I feel like we were able to kind of give you guys some good information as far as how we became dog trainers, how the process of becoming better dog trainers was helped by TWC. And we certainly hope to see you guys in the community. I want to thank you guys for joining us on the call. The cool thing is that the people in the audience, I can kind of see your names. There's a lot of people here who are enrolled in the upcoming class. There's a lot of people who have already completed the program. And there's also some people on here that are going to be joining us in the UK. So really, really excited for that. Keep an eye out for any future workshops that we have planned. But once again, I want to thank everyone for being on the call today. If you have any remaining questions, please feel free to email me at Eric, ERICK, at trainingwithoutconflict.com, and I'll be happy to answer any of your questions. Otherwise, I'm going to wrap up the call. Thank you guys again. Thank you to Dylan for being here today. Appreciate everyone for coming on the call today. Have a great one, guys.